Hello there, you're watching our television. Good evening. I am Pamudha Katagampala. This is Biz RoundUp, where we at our television bring you a collection of business highlights. Now let's have a look at the top stories. Asian Development Bank pledges another loan facility. South Asia's growth will be positive. World Bank projects. Sri Lanka would discuss the debt restructuring framework by next month, Minister Bandula says. Welcome back, you're watching Biz RoundUp. Let's have a look at today's stories in detail. Now, the Asian Development Bank has agreed to provide a special loan facility of $350 million to Sri Lanka. This is revealed by the Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena recently. The Cabinet of Ministers on Monday approved plans to obtain new financial and technical support from the Asian Development Bank in order to aid the ongoing recovery from the economic crisis. Support will be provided based on the country's policies, along with another loan grant of $1.5 million as technical assistance in order to strengthen the stability and administration. The Cabinet approved the proposal furnished by President Ranil Wickremesinghe to entrust the responsibility to the Ministry Secretary for processing the further activities on obtaining the relevant loan. The President did so in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies. To date, Asian Development Bank has committed 482 public sector loans, grants and technical assistance to Sri Lanka. The entirety of these fund facilities accumulate to $11.2 billion. Further, ADB disbursed $784 million to Sri Lanka in 2022 and committed $200 million in an emergency assistance loan. Asian Development Bank's ongoing sovereign portfolio in Sri Lanka includes 41 loans and one grant worth $3.64 billion. Meanwhile, the World Bank projects that South Asia's economic growth will be in average 5.6% in the current year. This information was revealed in the latest South Asia Focus Expanding Opportunities toward Inclusive Growth report, which was published recently. World Bank says that South Asia's growth prospects have weakened due to tightening financial conditions. It highlighted the need to roll back market distortions introduced during the pandemic and address debilitating socioeconomic divides that constrain South Asia's potential. South Asia's growth is expected to remain moderate at 5.9% in 2024, following an initial post-pandemic recovery of 8.2% in 2021. Report says lower commodity prices, a strong recovery in the services sector and reduced disruptions in value chains are aiding South Asia's recovery, although rising interest rates and uncertainty in financial markets are putting downward pressure on the region's economies. All countries in the region except Bhutan have downgraded their forecasts. In Sri Lanka, GDP is expected to contract by 4.3% this year, reflecting the lasting impact of the debt crisis. Sri Lanka's economic growth remains heavily dependent on debt restructuring and structural reforms. Inflation in South Asia is set to fall to 8.9% this year and to below 7% in 2024. Elevated global and domestic food prices are contributing to greater food insecurity for South Asia's poor, who spend a larger share of income on food. Now, the Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe said that Central Bank is duty-bound to protect the interest of depositors in the financial system. Dr. Veerasinghe said this speaking at the Centre for Banking Studies in Colombo recently. Dr. Nandalal noted that there should be a clear demarcation between the responsibility of fiscal administration, which falls under the purview of the Treasury, and monetary administration, which would fall under the purview of the central bank. He noted that under the proposed new framework, there would be an emphasis on the demarcation of roles. Dr. Veerasinghe acknowledged that there would be changes to the law as legal challenges and parliamentary processes take their course. He also highlighted that under the recent modern monetary theory framework, there had been an explosion in inflation. Veerasinghe noted that this policy was not a policy that was foisted on the Sri Lankan polity by way of international powers, but rather the same policy that was followed by international powers in their own frameworks. The central bank bill with minor changes shall be consistent with the Constitution. The more ambitious reforms are still possible if the bill passes with a 2 out of 3 majority within Parliament. The Supreme Court upheld the distinction between monetary and fiscal policy and noted that an autonomous central bank, as set out in the proposed framework, is still answerable to Parliament. The new bill shall better balance the forces of market interest rates against the expenditure plans of the government, hopefully creating a system whereby broad economic benefit hurdles are established for government spending. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka will make the Indian rupee a designated currency in the country. He said this while delivering the keynote speech at a webinar organised by the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal said that making Indian rupee a designated currency by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka will enable the trade settlements between the two countries to be done in INR. He further said that even Indian tourists who are expecting to come to Sri Lanka could benefit from this, as they will also be allowed to pay using INR. Dr. Veerasinghe also expressed support for the linking digital payment interfaces between the two countries. Webinar was named Economic Scenario of Sri Lanka, Current Status and Way Ahead, was concluded with the presence of the Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle. The Indian High Commissioner highlighted that connectivity, IT, renewable energy and tourism are prospects for economic cooperation between India and Sri Lanka. During the first 23 days of April, India topped the tourism flow to the country, reflecting 17% or 13,839 arrivals. And for the year to date, Indians accounted for the second highest of 60,271 arrivals, or 14% of all arrivals. Remarks by the CBSL governor came a day after Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena launched a special cover commemorating the Sita Temple in Nuwara, which is a place of significant cultural importance and attachment to Indians. See you on the flip side with more stories after this short commercial break.
Businesses in this day and age require the best communication solutions to be connected anywhere and anytime. Our technologically advanced long-distance radio devices operate even in the most challenging and harsh environments, designed for dust, water, and drop resistance. The push-to-talk function is designed for convenience, ensuring clear and uninterrupted communication between multiple devices. Dynacom Engineering, a subsidiary of IWS Holdings, is a licensed service provider of the best push-to-talk long-distance wireless communication systems, approved by the TRC and the Ministry of Defense.
The Auto and Mobility Show. Fast and nimble. Even though they might not look it, Rev delves into the fascinating world of sleeper cars.
Welcome back. This is the Biz RoundUp. Now, the World Bank will grant $150 million on a development policy financing program to strengthen the financial sector of Sri Lanka. The information was revealed at the weekly cabinet media briefing which took place recently. The government said discussions have been held to obtain loan facilities for Sri Lanka's debt insurance and liquidity support scheme under Sri Lanka Financial Sector Security Network project. According to the authorities, the effort would preserve stability and lead to the resumption of a good financial intermediary system. The government said the country has implemented a comprehensive economic stabilization and recovery program with necessary reforms to address macroeconomic challenges. The government also said this has been done in line with the International Monetary Fund's Extended Fund Facility program. According to the officials, the World Bank has agreed to its support based on the three key areas of economic governance transformation, namely growth, competitiveness improvement and protection of the poor and vulnerable. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal presented by President Ranil Wickremesinghe to carry out the entire coordination process of the proposed World Bank program by the Presidential Secretariat. The President also requested the Cabinet to authorize the Department of Foreign Resources to conduct negotiations with the World Bank in relation to obtain the relevant funds. Now, Transport Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has expressed confidence that a debt restructuring framework will be made by May. Addressing the media earlier this week to brief about the cabinet decisions, Minister Gunawardena also stressed that the process of restructuring debt would not be so easy. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the President expressed confidence that a framework for debt restructuring will be made by the next month. He said that the continuous discussions with the involvement of expert agencies and the International Monetary Fund are being conducted at present by the Treasury and Central Bank officials. He also added that the discussions will be continued for a few more days. The cabinet spokesman also told the media personnel that President Wickremesinghe engaged in a number of online meetings with the finance ministers of France, Japan and India. He further added that the meeting with the Paris Club had become most successful and the official financial advisors, Lazard and legal advisors, Clifford Chance, are fully active in the process. The central bank has said domestic debt restructuring will be voluntary, but fresh jitters hit the market last week, triggering a rise in bond yields. Several countries which were hit by monetary instability from flexible inflation targeting and flexible exchange rates or similar impossible trinity regimes which had market access and defaulted in recent years and more are on the brink of default. Meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said giving emphasis to the development of the Makran region as a whole is key in assessing the country's course to becoming the region's sea and air hub. The President revealed government's plan while addressing the 30-year development plan of the Colombo North Port workshop in Colombo recently.
Our intention is to make Sri Lanka an air-sea hub. Sri Lanka has to think of the future. What we will do in the next 25 years. How are we going ahead to make this a developed country? We have to look at the developments in India, in Bangladesh, in Iran, the total Makran coast, in assessing the role that Sri Lanka has to play as a hub. That is important. We have to think now of what the development should be. The SLPA and the consultants have given us a report on the feasibility of the North Port. We have to remember one thing only, that what is going to take place in India, what's the development in Pakistan and what's the development going to be in Iran. Those three will decide the capacity. By 2050, India will be the most populous country in the world. From 1.4 billion, it will be up to 1.7 billion people. The industrialization of India is going fast, especially in some areas. You find Gujarat, Maharashtra, and other one is the southern India, especially in Tamil Nadu.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe recently emphasized the importance of a strong export-oriented economy and urged the private sector to spearhead the economic growth of the country. The President made these statements while addressing the Business Today Top 40 Award ceremony at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo.
We have to ensure that we are a dynamic economy, that we are an export-oriented economy. And the major areas would be our decision to enter into the comprehensive economic and technological partnership with India, but also to negotiate to enter the RCEP. So we have to come to the RCEP standard. We can't be lower than that. We have to open up. And after RCEP, we should go for the CPTPP, the Comprehensive Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. So that means already we are setting the criteria. You have to act according to that. We can't be changing it. How are you going to contribute? Once we open up the economy, we are leaving the growth to private sector. The burden is fully on yours. I have shifted it out, it's no longer. I certainly won't have to say the government is responsible. You all are going to be responsible. So you have to tell us what you are going to do. We will be talking to all of you, but the country will look at you. If you want the private sector to be the engines of growth, then come up with a plan and perform the job.
Stay tuned, we will return after this short commercial break.
State of Business, sponsored by
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back, you're watching Biz RoundUp. Now, Cabinet approves the appointment of a special task force to come up with a master plan for the development and the preservation of the natural beauty of the Norelia district. Cabinet spokesman Bandula Gunawardena said at the post-cabinet meeting media briefing recently. Minister Gunawardena said the government has begun preparation to develop Norelia to preserve the scenic beauty and ban the construction of buildings above 4 stories in the major tourist city. According to the minister, the move aims to put an end to the unplanned spreading out of buildings in Norelia. This was included in the government's new town development plan and Norelia tourism plan. Minister Gunawardena said the president in his recent visit to Norelia insisted on the importance of developing the district, enabling it to attract tourists throughout the year. The task force will be headed by the governor of the central provinces under the coordination of the president's office with the contribution of all relevant parties. The Urban Development Authority has begun given authority to issue required regulations stipulated by its act. Nicknamed Little England due to its cool climate and colonial-era bungalows, Norelia boasts a dramatic landscape. Some of its more popular tourist attractions are Moon Plains, Horton Plains National Park, Lovers Leap Falls and Ambevilla Farms. The proposal to this effect was submitted by President Wickremesinghe and was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers at its meeting on Monday. Now, Sri Lanka's inflation in March has dropped below 50% for the first time since July 2022, according to the Department of Census and Statistics. This information was depicted in the monthly National Consumer Price Index report for the month of March, published on the 21st of April. As per the NCPI, the overall rate of inflation year-on-year for March 2023 was 49.2%, which is a 4.4% drop from the 53.6% reported for the month of February. The monthly prices, which provide more credible information if the prices are in fact declining, decelerated to 0.3% in March from a 1.1% increase in February. The index data showed that the food prices are coming down faster than the non-food due to the relative steepness in inflation in the services. However, inflation barring the often volatile items such as food, energy and transport rose by 44.2% year-on-year in March, substantially down from 50.1% year-on-year in February. The core inflation is widely used to measure prices to gauge the pace of underlying prices in the economy and thus is often used for policy making, such as to determine the interest rates in the economy. Easing financial conditions are expected to further accelerate the declining path of inflation as the firms could again start borrowing to ramp up their production. Meanwhile, the national food inflation eased in March to 42.3% year-on-year, while the prices measured monthly continued to decline by 2.1% for the second consecutive month. The non-food inflation rose by 54.9%, while the monthly prices rose by 2.3% compared to 3.7% a month ago. The reduction in the fuel prices had a positive impact, while the increase in the electricity tariff partly offset that during last month. Now, the Power and Energy Ministry announces that the already increased fuel quota that was provided for the New Year season will be continued for the third consecutive week. The minister took to Twitter to make the announcement earlier this week. The minister, taking to Twitter, said the progress review meeting of Ceylon Petroleum Corporation was held yesterday, in which a number of matters were discussed, namely fuel cargo import plan, fuel distribution and national fuel pass QR system, and the newly imposed fuel quotas for the New Year season. Minister said on Twitter during the meeting it was decided to continue with increased weekly fuel quotas after analysing the fuel import, management, distribution and sales data. The fuel quota for passenger three-wheelers special category was increased from 10 to 15 litres on the 8th of this month. Three-wheelers in general category was increased to 8 litres from 5 litres and the motor bicycles from 5 litres to 7 litres. While the buses are provided 6 litres, cars and vans were also increased with 10 litres, making it 30 litres per week. Government introduced the quota system in August last year to limit the fuel consumption as it ran out of petrol and diesel due to foreign currency shortage. And this issue has since been gradually easing, mainly with the receipt of the International Monetary Fund's Extended Funds Facility of $2.9 billion in March. Meanwhile, the United States Department of Agriculture says that Sri Lanka is on track to reach pre-fertilizer ban levels of production by next year. The information was brought into light by a report published by the Foreign Agricultural Service Department of the USDA. The USDA predicted Sri Lanka's paddy harvest for the year 2024 to increase by 23% to 4.65 million metric tons from the estimated 3.77 million metric tons last year. Accordingly, milled rice production is projected to reach 3.16 million metric tons in the upcoming year, to be derived from a planted area of 1 million hectares with yields of 4.26 metric tons per hectare. During the current market year ending October 2023, milled rice production is forecasted to reach a partial recovery with a 47% increase in output. This is due to the incomplete or partial application of the full basket of fertilizers required for the rice crop to thrive. The USDA noted the TSP fertilizer that landed in Sri Lanka in March 2023 is now available for application during the upcoming Yala 2023 season. Consequently, rice imports are projected to decline to 25,000 metric tons in the next market year from the estimated 150,000 metric tons in the current market year and from a record high 820,000 metric tons reported last year. The USDA pointed out that the high production costs continue to be a challenge for the rice farmers. Meanwhile, rice consumption is predicted to rise by 7% year-on-year to 3.1 million metric tons in the upcoming market year from the estimated 2.9 million metric tons in the current market year. The USDA noted that on a per capita consumption basis, rice consumption is down about 102 kilograms per annum. And with that, we wind up for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. See you tomorrow at 7:45 p.m. with State of Business. Take care and good night.